A new CNN poll shows how Bernie Sanders stacks up against the GOP's major contenders for 2016, and if you're a Bernie Sanders supporter, then I think you're gonna like it. So now, compared to Jeb Bush, Sanders is at 48%, but Bush is at 47%. Compared to Scott Walker, Sanders is at 48%, and Walker is at 42%. Now, compared to Donald Trump, Bernie Sanders is at 59%, and Donald Trump's at 38%. So that's a beating. Now, I want to note that when you control for registered voters, it is the case that Jeb Bush does beat Bernie Sanders by 1 percentage point. But again, he's a Bush. He has a lot of name recognition, whereas Bernie Sanders doesn't have that yet. Now, when we go to the methodology, the margin of error is less than 3 percentage points, and the sample size is 1,017 respondents, but 615 of the people polled were on landlines, and 402 people were on cell phones. So I would like to see how this would turn out if we threw more cell phones in the mix, because as you all know, I mean, the only people who really use landlines now are older generations. So if you throw in more cell phones, presumably you would get more responses from younger people. And as we all know, Bernie Sanders' message resonates very highly with younger people. So the poll does have general applicability, but I am interested to see how it would work out if you do kind of swap out some dynamics, if you put in more cell phones and whatnot, or even if you poll people more ways, such as on the internet. Now, what's the takeaway? The takeaway is that Bernie Sanders can win a national election. Now, look, I've already said this 100 times now. When you compare all of his policies, they're right in line with the American people. They have majority support for almost all of his policies. So actually, for all of his policies, the only ones that don't have majority support is his stance on trade, but he has plurality support on those issues. So I also want to note that it is the case that his biggest challenge is going to be getting through the Democratic primary, because Hillary Clinton is still beating him and everyone else as well. But we already knew that. We're not surprised. He's slowly but surely moving up. Now, Kyle Kulinski from Secular Talk, by the way, if you're not subscribed to him, you've got to do it, because he's hands down the best when it comes to political commentary. But anyways, he states that, it is the case that Bernie Sanders, his biggest challenge is going to be getting through that Democratic primary. And he's 100% correct to state that. The thing that a lot of people don't realize is that Bernie Sanders' message also resonates with a lot of Republicans. So when you look at some of the issues, such as getting money out of politics, support for the minimum wage, although many of the GOP candidates don't support these policies, well, their constituents do. So it is the case that Bernie Sanders could win in a national election. Now, going back to the polls, look, he's really close when it comes to Jeb Bush. They're, in essence, tied when you take into account registered voters. But I mean, look, he's 6 percentage points ahead of Scott Walker. He's in the double digits ahead of Donald Trump. So this is great news for Bernie Sanders supporters, and it just kind of goes to show that his campaign is not going to stop with the momentum. He is really making some waves in this election cycle.